maternity leave on Sunday, so it may take me until February to get back to you if you send me your questions next week. So I mentioned that we have a lot of resources on what we're going to cover today, and we have a comprehensive set of helps and articles with screenshots and step-by-step instructions that walk you through how to make changes to education settings, use typing screen themes, everything we're going to talk about today. We also have these new interactive demos that bring you into the program and you can click your way through them. They show you how to do things step by step in the same way with narration and on-screen prompts. And we also have some video overviews. Make use of those if you can. There'll be links to them coming out in the email at the end. Because we have all of those sort of one-way resources where they're talking at you, what I'm hoping for today's webinar is that we can have more of a dialogue here. So give you an opportunity to ask questions about how everything applies to your school, and we can use the chat for that. So if you have a question about something I'm talking about, type it in the chat. I can actually give you the floor so we can see you speaking, and you'll be able to join the video call live, ask your question. We can talk for a second, try to answer it together. So do make use of the chat. It should be to the right of your screen over here. Right, so let me just give you a quick introduction. My name's Meredith. I've been with TTRS for the past 10 years. So I work on the curriculum, any research projects that we have going, and I help develop new features, which is why I'm here presenting today for you. My background is actually in applied linguistics and language testing, but for the past 10 years, I have been working on SEN. And right. So we've had a lot of updates over the past 6 months, starting in August when we released our new level assessments, but probably the biggest came out in December, and that was a change to how our education settings work. So it used to be that when you opened the settings tab at the top right of your of the navigation header, you saw two side-by-side panels that had a students tab and your settings. And you could make changes to student settings, but they were general changes, and it wasn't always clear what was applied to one individual or another. You had to actually go into the student settings to see that. And then when you were inside a student settings, you didn't always have the same toggles that an admin would have. So what we've done with the new settings approach is made it much easier to see what an individual student settings are and to configure them exactly how you want them. So from now on, when you want to change a student's individual settings, you don't need to use the settings tab at all. You can go straight to the students tab at the top right of your screen here, at the top navigation header. So you can see students up here, and you choose the student that you would like to configure settings for. So I have these as stills so we can walk through them. When you click on a student to select them, it brings you to their stats page that gives you an overview of how they're doing on the course. Use the Actions drop-down menu in the top right to select Settings, and that will bring you to the student's full settings panel, which is very different from how it used to look. So you can now see we've divided settings into different groups. You have a tab for general settings. These are the main toggles you need to direct to change how the program works. You can unlock and lock levels, set spelling tests, weekly goals. There's a lot you can do here. We have an appearance tab. This has visually how the screen looks for the student. You can choose different fonts, different colors, different color backgrounds, which help with readability. Typing settings, this is where you set whether or not they have the on-screen hands or not. And different remember and repeat, copy typing, over typing. We also have audio settings and correction settings. Now, what students can see from their own interface is mostly just the appearance, typing, and audio settings. You have a lot more control from your admin view of a student's individual settings. So let's see. If you want to change a student's actual settings, I'm going to go through and show you this live. Let's see. Sorry, my golden retriever is making a little bit of noise in the background here. So here I am inside that student's settings. You can see I have all of the tabs here. When we introduced this new system, what we did was kind of soft launch it in a sense. We took all of your students, and we put them on a default settings configuration, which is just kind of what they used to have too. It's what the settings look like when you first start when a student first starts the program. But then we went through and we made every single change that they already had in place. So there wouldn't be any difference. They wouldn't notice anything different. So if they had a particular background screen or a particular font selected, all of that would have remained the same. When you want to make a change to your student settings and you open up their personal settings panel here, you can see this little symbol here next to any setting that they had specifically configured in a different way from what the default is. So right here, when I'm looking at this student settings, I can see they have a minimum pass mark required of 70%. We typically recommend 80%, but this might be set to 70% because they are working on typing speed right now, and we recognize their accuracy might be a little lower. They've been working on the course for a while. They have quite an ambitious weekly goal of 15 modules. We can also see they're looking at words per minute scores when they finish a module, meaning they are definitely working on typing speed. I can also see they have custom changes in place here across, across the appearance, typing settings, audio settings. So these all have custom changes. Let's say I want to actually make a change to this student settings. All I have to do, as I said, is go to the Students tab, select the student, open up this panel, and I can go in and toggle any of these on or off. When I do that, let's say I want to turn, I want to change this weekly module, the pass mark required, to 80%. Any change I make here will turn into a pending change up here, and all I need to do is click Apply Changes to change the student's settings. And now you'll see there's still a toggle here, but you can see I've made this change and now they're on a minimum pass mark required of 80%. So while we're here, let's just walk through what settings are available. There are a lot of settings in the TTRS program. If you ever feel overwhelmed and you're not sure what something does, you can always use this little icon here, which will give you a quick description of what the setting does. But we also have settings overview demos and help articles with tables where you can look up every single setting and how it works. So unlocking and locking levels. This student has locked levels, meaning they start on module 1 and they have to proceed through the course, completing them one at a time. You might want to unlock levels if a student is looking to work on phonics and you want to teach a particular phonics or spelling pattern that's in level 3 or level 5, you unlock levels and then they can jump around in the course. If you have the levels unlocked, you can't set a minimum pass mark because they can move around anyway. So there's no way to say they need to score 80% to move to the next module. But if the levels are locked, you can go in and set a minimum pass mark. We talked about that. So the system will prompt the student to retake the module until they achieve that score. Weekly module goals. So a weekly module goal is just how many modules you'd like the student to complete that week. This is going to be different for every learner. It's a really motivating feature. I'll have a look at it. I'm just going to switch views to my slides for a second here. You can see that when you're inside a student's account, they have this little circle that says that's based on their weekly module goal. Now you can turn it off so they don't have one, but if you turn it on, it'll tell them when they first start the week, they've completed 0 out of the 8 target modules they're meant to complete that week. As they go through, the circle fills in until they get a full green. Obviously, they can keep going. They don't need to just do 8. They can do as many as they want, but it's a real motivating factor for them. And you can also see this little flame streak here. So if each week they consistently meet their weekly module goal, every week that they do that, they'll get a little, they'll get a 1 next to their flame streak, so they can build up a streak. They could, if 5 weeks in a row they met their weekly module goal, they'll have a 5 here. So these are part of our gamification features that help motivate learners. So I'm just going to go back to the main screen here. So enable dictation modules and enable show word option for dictation modules. These are 2 new settings that you didn't have before December. If you're familiar with the TTRS course, you know dictation modules are, and I'm going to go back actually to the slides again. Dictation modules are different from typing modules in that students don't have a word that they're typing. They're not over typing a word or copying it on the line below. They're just given the audio prompts and they have to type it. So it helps you measure their spelling in a sense. We have the current system has a little, every 5th module in the course is a dictation module. So they take 4 typing modules where they learn the words, they practice typing them, and then the 5th one is always a dictation module. We have a system now where if you want to turn a dictation module off, you can. You simply toggle this DICT icon on the student's screen, and it'll take a dictation module and turn it into a regular typing exercise. You can also do it the other way and make a regular typing exercise into a dictation by clicking it again. But up until December, there was no way to actually turn all of the dictation modules on or off in the course. And by default, they're on, but for some learners, dictations can be quite intimidating. It might be that they struggle with fine motor skills, or they're not ready to work on spelling yet, or it feels like a test, and so it creates anxiety. This is actually the view inside a dictation module, so they can click on the little eye icon to see the word they're meant to type. They can play it again by clicking on this audio here, and they can actually play a slowed down version of it. If they don't like seeing a timer when they're in a dictation module, they can just click on the clock and it'll turn into this icon instead of like a ticking clock. But this is inside the dictation. So if you want to turn all of the dictation, and I'll just switch back to our live view for a second, modules off in the course, you just toggle this here and it'll shut them all off. The little show word icon, that allows students to kind of have a preview of, to see the word that they're meant to type if they're struggling and they can't figure it out. You can also turn those hints off with the enable or disable show word option. So if you find a student is using this for every single word in a dictation, they just show it and then they type it, you might want to turn it off. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you do that because actually the show word is quite helpful. It sounds like it's a bit of a, it sounds like they're cheating in a sense because they're looking at the word. But the way our short-term memory works is we all have different visuospatial sketch paths. That's what it's called. We look at something and we close our eyes and we can hold on to the image of the word for longer amounts of time. And you can actually strengthen your short-term memory and your students' memory. This is part of what aptitude for language is. And when they're quickly looking at a word and then the word disappears and they have to type it, that's what they're doing. They're actually strengthening their ability to hold a picture of the word for longer amounts of time, which for some learners can be quite helpful when it comes to spelling. So just going through more of the settings here. Enable words review. This is our new spelling test system. And I'm sorry, I'm just seeing people join, just making sure no one's asking questions. We're going to talk about that after, but if you see it on, it's likely because it's a student account that was added after August when we first introduced these. If it's off, it's because you had an existing student when we introduced it and we started it in beta mode. So enable free writing. This is our free writing interface that gives you the ability to kind of bridge the gap between just copy typing exercises and writing on the computer. You can students can choose typing sessions, free writing sessions of different lengths. They can go in, type on a topic that you give them. They can generate an image prompt and write on that. And then at the end of their session, they'll see statistics on how they did for typing, how they did for spelling. You can see those statistics as well. You can also leave feedback on their piece, view their actual piece, print it. So that's free writing. Some learners aren't ready for that, but if your students are, it's a great exercise to have them do every now and then. Typing screen themes, we're going to talk about these later on. These were introduced in August as well. You should have these on. We did turn them on for all students. What they are is the background screen that a student sees when they're typing. And as they go through the course, they can unlock fun typing screen themes. They're hidden behind different modules. We have a help document that actually tells you where they're hidden. So if you want to go in and purposefully unlock them for your students, you can recommend they take a particular module in a particular level, and they'll unlock a typing screen theme. It's random which one they'll get, but the more they take them, the more they move through the course, the more they unlock, and then they can choose them in their appearance settings, and it makes for sort of a brighter, more fun interface for them. So allowing students to generate their own certificates. Typically, it's you who generates a certificate for a student, but you might have a parent who's working at home with their child and they want to be able to generate certificates. So you can turn that on to allow them to generate their own. Level trophies are to do with the gamification system in TTRS. And that's just how they earn stars and they earn trophies as they complete different levels. I'm just going to switch back to my slides for a second here. So an end of module screen is the screen that a student sees when they complete a typing module. You can see in this one, the student's accuracy is being reported at the top right. They have a graph, but they're not seeing a big number here for their typing speed. So if we go back again to this to our settings panel, you can see you can change how that end of module looks for your students. You can have it show the accuracy score, or if you have learners who get really intense about trying to get 100% and will take the same module over and over again, and you really don't want them to see their accuracy in big numbers, you want them to just be congratulated and be able to move on to the next module, you can actually turn it off so they're not seeing their accuracy score. You can turn words per minute on, so word per minute score on, so it's showing it in big numbers at the top, how fast they were typing. We have this toggled off typically for most students when they start the program. That's because we found a lot of students will sacrifice accuracy in the pursuit of faster typing speed. And you don't want to really do that until they're comfortable with the hand position and basic typing technique, and then they're ready to work on speed. So we usually have this turned off. You can see this student has the setting turned on, but that differs from what our default is. And at any time, if you feel a student is ready to really work on typing technique, you can go in and turn this on. So it's showing them at the end of each module. You can also turn the graph on and off, and you can enable messaging so that they can message with you in the message interface. If we look quickly at the appearance tab, I'm just going to catch myself up to my notes here. Let's see. Yeah. So if we look quickly at the appearance tab, there is one new setting in here that you may not be familiar with. So you can see the system theme is just whether this is a light or a dark background here. Background theme, these are the typing screen themes they can unlock where they can choose different ones. And every account comes with 2 defaults. So if you can see here, I have an ocean water on, but you can also do grassy field, or you can go back to the standard table and desk, which is what we used to have. You can change the keyboard color, the font. So we have a few font options. None of them have serifs. Serifs are the little doodads that show up that kind of make a font look flowery. They can be really distracting and hard and complicate visual processing. So all of these are sans serif fonts. We also have Open Dyslexic, which is a specific font that was developed for students with dyslexia. It weights, if I get here, you can see it in the screen. It weights each character differently to help with visual discrimination of letters that might be commonly confused in reading. We also have a new font coming out in a few weeks called Lexend, which is really good for readability. So that'll become an option for your students to select, and it's dyslexia friendly as well. So students can go in and you can set it, or your students can set their screen color, hand color, fingertip color, the word color, and you can use these color configurations to help with readability, because some certain backgrounds make it much easier for individual learners to read, and that's kind of up to the individual. There's no sort of uniform color that works best for everyone with dyslexia or whatever. Transparent hands. So this is a new feature. If I click transparent hands here, you can see the hand guides that I had on the screen become less opaque. And you can actually see the key underneath the hand. So this is really helpful if you have a student who's struggling with typing technique, which finger to use for which letter. You can turn it on or off under the appearance. We'll look at typing settings next. So under typing settings, the first field here is probably the most important. This is language. So this student is learning US English. This is because this student happens to be my child. And I'm American, but I live in England. So he learns UK spelling at school, but I want him to be aware of the American spelling for words. So I have him using TTRS with American spelling conventions. What you choose here will dictate what the program teaches. And we have slightly different curriculums for US, UK, and Australian English. So it's very important that you have your student on the language that matches where you are and what spelling conventions they should be learning. What you choose here also determines which voices they can choose from in their own interface. So when they go to audio, they can change to a different voice, but my son can only choose from American voices. So this is a really key point. Under hand guides, this looks the same as it always has, moving hands and letter options. So you can have the hand showing what to type, and you can have which finger to use to type which key, and you can have the letters printed on the keyboard or taken off. You can have just the keyboard, or you can have just the typing screen. Copy typing, this is when they see the word above and they copy the text on the line below. If you have this turned off, students actually overtype the word. So they'll type the W and they'll change to a different color than the O, then the R, the D, and the S, and it won't, there won't be a line below. One-handed typing instruction for students who are learning the keyboard with one hand. Remember and repeat. This is a spelling feature. You get a little description of it here. It's when a student types a word and then the word disappears from view and they have to type it again from memory. It can be quite frustrating for some learners. So you want to see how your students react to it. And if they're having a tough time with it, you can turn it off, but it's also very helpful for spelling. So use that as you see fit. And show words per minute score. How is this different from the one we saw on the general tab? This just shows them when they're inside the typing module. It shows them what their speed is, so they can kind of keep track of it. You need to, if you want to have it turned on here, you can have it inside the module. And then if you have it turned on the other screen, it'll also show at the end. Audio settings. So audio settings, pretty straightforward. Your student has access to most of these. You can have the program speak one word at a time, 3 words, or a full sentence. Sometimes audio can sound a little choppy when it's one word at a time. Unfortunately, that's the only way to really focus on different words. If we had it reading it as a sentence, which is more mimicking natural speech, it would sound better. We wouldn't be able to zero in on each word at a time. So right now, this program is set to speak 1 word at a time. I can change it to 3 words. Just remember that we are actually not meant to listen to isolated speech. So it can sometimes be hard to identify a word when you just hear it spoken once, which is why we have repeat options. You can play the audio again, and you can also slow it down in the program. But as humans, our brains are really sensitive to context. We're used to listening to a word with its collocates, the words that usually appear or that usually come before and after it. And so this can complicate, this can make it harder and more challenging, but unfortunately it's the nature of a typing program that we need to do 1 word at a time. You can have them speak the full sentence and speak 3 words, but for beginners, we typically recommend 1 word at a time, so you can really isolate the sounds and have them listen to the vowel sounds in the middle of a word and look at how they're mapped to the spelling. The voice, again, I spoke about this earlier. Under your admin settings, you can actually choose from all of the available voices, but if you choose a voice that differs from the spelling conventions your student is learning, if I choose UK Jeff, this will actually change the language setting on the other screen. So you don't want to do this. You want to make sure you select a voice or you let your student select a voice that matches the language that you've selected on the typing settings so that they're learning the correct spelling conventions. And you can see some of these are marked with an asterisk. If there's an asterisk, it means it's a computer-generated voice. So if your student complains the voice is a little too robotic, have them choose one that doesn't have that. So that's a human who recorded all of the words. Play word audio is actually just the idea that we have audio in the program. It's multisensory. They see the word on screen, they hear it read aloud, and they type it. We recommend keeping that on. You can have the space bar on, and this is actually a new setting here, announce scores out loud. This allows you to, this is really good for students with visual processing disorders or visual impairment. It will read whatever scores you have set in the module completion window. It will read those aloud for them at the end. Play ended module applause is just the clapping that you get at the end. And training modules are in the first level, and they're just the sort of spoken narration that helps guide them on typing technique. The last thing we're going to look at is correction settings. So we have an announce backspace key. When a student makes a mistake, it tells them hit the backspace key. This can be really frustrating for some students, so you might want to turn this off. It still indicates on screen that they have to use the backspace key to move on. So it's not like they don't have any kind of a hint here. If they don't like hearing backspace over and over again to remind them they've made a mistake, you might turn this off. And again, I can do that, and you'll see pending changes are 3 for my student because I'm changing their personal settings. This last one here is quite important, the one mistake option. So You can get a little explanation of what it is here. One mistake means they can only make one mistake before they have to correct it. So they can't go through a typing module just making mistakes willy-nilly and making spelling. They actually have to correctly type each word before they are presented with the next word. They can only type one incorrect letter, then they have to fix it. You might have a student who finds, let's take a student with dyspraxia, for example, who struggles with fine motor skills. This could be really frustrating for them if they're just getting started and they're getting used to typing technique and they are trying to work on strengthening their hands. You may want to turn this off. I mean, it's not ideal because you're allowing them to make spelling mistakes, but it will give them a sense of momentum moving through the modules, and then you can always turn it back on when they're ready. So this one, if it's on, a student can only make one mistake and they have to fix the spelling. If it's turned off, they can actually make spelling mistakes and still complete a module. So that's an important setting to be aware of. So again, if I want to make a change to my student settings, I have pending changes here. All I need to do is click Apply Changes, and it will update their individual settings. So if anyone has any questions, let me know. But just to summarize, the quickest way to do this is just to change the student settings is to visit the Students tab, find your student, click on them, and then toggle everything here and click Apply Changes. Right. So let's have a look at group settings. So the question then becomes, what do we use? Let me switch to my slides again. What's the point of having group settings? So if you have a small school, if you only have, sorry, I'm just seeing that somebody's put a few questions on here. Can you put assessments using your own words? For example, link it with their spelling for that week in class. Let me just answer those very, very briefly. We are going to talk about assessments later, but you can do that in the program if you create your own subject. If you create your own subject and put spelling lists in that subject, then you can use our old spelling test feature to generate an assessment, and that'll test just the words that you included in that subject. So there is a way to do that. If you want more questions or help on that, just send me an email and I can send you some screenshots to guide you through that process. And can you turn off the word description, e.g. led the man, led the horse? You can't currently turn these off. That's just, so in that example, that's because led we have led, it could be led LED or led LEAD. And so that is a homophone. We don't have the ability to, but we can look at adding that as a setting in the future if that's causing difficulty or distraction. And as my colleague Harry has said, my director Harry has said, if you have questions, you can also use the questions tab, and then I can go back through and try to answer them directly for you at the end. Right, I'm just going to go, because I recognize we're halfway through the webinar here and we still have a lot to cover. I'm going to go back to group settings. So when we introduce this new system, we put all of your students on a default setting, and we moved their custom changes across. So if you want to just carry on like that, just making individual changes to your student settings, that's perfectly fine. You can completely ignore group settings. That's fine. If, however, you have a larger account, there might be, you may want to make changes. You may want to create special configurations of settings that you can apply to groups of new students. So why would you want to do this? Let's say you want to have a general school setting that all of your students have, where the background color is a particular shade and you have a certain font selected and they are all using free writing or not, or their levels are unlocked. You may have a specific class, an after-school typing club where they're working on typing speed, a class where they're working on spelling, and you want different settings for each class. So you could create a group setting for the class here. You may have students with special learning needs that you want to put on kind of dyslexia-specific group of settings, dysgraphia, visual impairment. Obviously, there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to dyslexia, dysgraphia, all learning difficulties in general. So what we would recommend is, even if you do that and you set up a group setting for all of your students with dyslexia, you still want to go in and customize their individual settings after. Now, this is the view when you click on settings for now. You should just see, if you haven't touched this since we released it in December, you'll probably just see a default by TTRS at the top. But what I'm going to walk you through is how to create some of those custom group settings and when to use them. So if you want to create a group of custom settings, you can either click on the default. It won't let you change the default, but it will give you a little option up here at the top that says save as a new preset. Or you can just go in and use that create new preset button at the top of your screen. And then you do exactly what we did for the student. So you go through the individual tabs and adjust that student's settings accordingly. So, or that group setting, the group settings accordingly. So you might unlock all levels or put the words per minute on or off. Basically create a custom view, a custom group of settings. Then you want to give it a name. Here I've given Miss Moore's typing class. And you will then go back to the settings tab and see your preset. These are called presets appear. This preset doesn't have any students on it because it's brand new. Now, when you want to, let me just check here. When you want to apply, I just want to make sure I have the right screen here. The way I would recommend using presets is for new students at the start of the year or in January. If you have a group of new learners, before they start using the program, before they have anything custom in place, you want to put them on a specific group of settings from the beginning. This is where you want to use this interface here. So if I want to apply Mrs. Moore's typing class to 10 new students that I just added to added to the program. So I've added them, they haven't even logged in yet. I can go here and select the new preset I made and use the actions apply to button. So under the apply to button, it'll show me all of my students. I can tick the students I want to apply this preset to. And then it's going to give me a warning message and it'll say, are you sure you want to do this? Because when you do this, you're effectively replacing the student settings. So if they had any custom changes in place, this is going to overwrite them with the new settings configuration that you created. I would only recommend using this for new students for that reason. There's another way, and we'll talk about that after, to assign a preset to an existing student. But this is the best way to do it in bulk at the start of the year or for new students you've just added. Once you've done that, you can actually open the preset up and there is an applied to tab in here. So you can see it's all the same tabs as we saw under students' individual settings. You have general, appearance, typing, audio, but you also have an applied to tab. That lets you see who's on this preset. So for example, let's say it's the start of the school year, you have 200 students, you want to put them all on a generic group preset for your school. You could assign them all to the school, but obviously some will have specific learning needs. Some might be from a particular class. So you can put everybody, bulk apply 200 students to this preset, and then you can go through and say, all right, actually this student here, I think they would be better on this dyslexia preset that I created, or this particular typing club preset. So you tick the student, and then you use the apply another preset button here, and it'll show you all of the presets you have, and you can just quickly assign the students to different presets. So this is a second way to apply a preset. Again, I would only use this with new students because the system will give you another warning message saying when you do this, you're going to overwrite the students' settings, custom settings, and you'll have to say yes. But that's for a new student, that shouldn't matter because they don't have any settings in place. What do you do? And this should be the case for most of your students. If you have existing students and they have all of these custom changes in place and you want to use the preset system with them. If you have only 30 students total, I would probably recommend just sticking with the default and making small individual changes, or creating a preset for your students going forward, any new students you add, and assigning that to them at the very beginning. But we do have a way of putting an existing student on a preset. You just go back to the Students tab. So you would do exactly what we did to change an individual student's settings. You find the students in the Students tab, select them, choose settings from the Actions dropdown, and then you can have a quick look at what the student settings are. So I can see they're on the default and they have these 3 custom settings. Their words review is turned off, their free writing is turned off, and their typing screen themes are turned off. Right, so I want to actually note down what it is that this student has customized. And then if you see at the top, it actually lists the preset they're on. You can toggle this, you can choose this drop down, and you can actually select a different preset for the student. So we could put them on the Mrs. Moore's typing class. But we've had a quick look at what they have customized. So what we really just need to do is make those changes again once we put them on the new preset. And the system is going to generate an error message or a warning message for you saying, when you move them to this new preset, it's going to erase all of their custom settings. And you can say, that's fine, because I'm going to reconfigure them again. You can apply the new preset and then go through and you'll see now they have the words review on, the free writing on, and the typing screen themes on because they're on this new preset. So you just toggle them off and apply the changes, just like we did before when we were updating a student's individual settings. So fairly easy. And in that way, you're actually using the preset, but you're making sure your student hasn't lost anything. So just to recap, we talked about how to change an individual student's settings. We looked at weekly module goals, turning all dictation exercises off, transparent hands, which are under the appearance settings. We looked at group settings, presets, and 3 ways of assigning them. You can do it on the main settings page in bulk to new students. You can use the Applied To tab to then select students and put them on different presets, or you can use the dropdown under a student's individual settings. Does anyone have any questions? I can say that you probably want to use the system in a different way depending on your situation. So we had one tutor explain to us that she always liked to set a particular background screen. She felt it helped with readability. And so for her, it was worth creating a preset that she would put all of her new tutees on, all of her new students on in the future. But she could just use the default and toggle individual settings for her existing students. If she wanted to, she could transfer all 30 over to the new preset and make custom changes, but that's a bit time consuming. So again, it just depends on your situation. If you do have questions, you can also, as I said, email them to me after. And we have a video, there's a link to a video that walks through all of this that you can go through again. And we have, again, the interactive demos as well. So if you're confused, because it is a lot of information to take in. Right. I'm not sure how far my slides go. The weekly module goal. Somebody's just asked me if I can explain the weekly module goal again. So just briefly, the weekly module goal is something you set at the start. Let me just switch to a different screen. It's under the General tab. Here we go. You set it under the. You can set it under a student's individual settings. It's basically just a target for them. When they sign into their student account, they'll see a circle and it'll say you've completed 0 out of 15 modules. Or if you set it to 4, 0 out of 4 modules this week. It's just to motivate them to make sure they sign in and reach that goal and actually complete 4 typing modules or however many modules you want it to be. And if they consistently meet their weekly module goal, they'll start building up a flame streak, which again, these are just gamification features. You can turn it off if you don't want to put any pressure on them. And you can change how many modules depending on how the student's doing. If they're consistently not meeting their weekly module goal, it can actually be demotivating. So you can take a look and see how they're doing and then adjust the setting here. And you can set every student a different personal weekly module goal. Okay, I'm going to just go back to presentation for a second here and talk a little bit about spelling assessments because we are running out of time. And actually what I will try to do is email the full PDF presentation to everybody as well. We'll see if we can pull the attendee list. It won't be in the email that's coming out after because I actually don't have all of the slides loaded on here. It wouldn't let me. My file was too big. But all right, so spelling assessments in TTRS. We introduced these in August. Let me just get to my... we introduced these in August and we soft launched them. What does that mean? It means that they're probably turned off for any students you had in the system before August, but they're probably turned on for students who were added after that. When we were looking through the settings, we saw this enable words review setting. So the words review is the spelling test toggle. And why is it called words review? So the reason it's called words review and not spelling test is what we've created here is actually a level assessment system with a pre and a post test. So before students start a level, they take a words preview. When they complete a level, they take a words review. We wanted to take the word tests out of there so they weren't anxious about it. It didn't feel like a high stakes thing that would create more anxiety. It's basically just you're previewing what you're going to learn in this level, and then you're just reviewing it. But actually, they serve as a measure of a student's baseline knowledge before they started the level, and then they go through all the typing modules and we see what they know at the end. So with the words preview, it shows up at the very start of the level. And again, we soft launch this, meaning your students, even if they have this turned on, they're not necessarily forced to take it, but they will be soon. We are going to turn this on. So they will be prompted to take the words preview at the start of the level. It doesn't give them any information other than just here, type these words, no stress. It doesn't give them a score either, because that wouldn't be very fair since they haven't actually learned this material yet. We're just trying to get a baseline read of what their spelling knowledge is of these patterns. So they can only ever take the words preview once, and then they go right into module 1 and they start working on the level. The words review, on the other hand, comes at the end of the level, and they can see their score here, and they can take it multiple times. So if they take it and they get a 92%, it will say, great, well done. You can always take it again to try to achieve gold status, which is a bit of a motivating factor for them. So how did we choose the words? What are these words that we're testing them on? How many are there? So each spelling, words preview and words review, have the same set of 12 words in them. And let me just see if I can, right. So if you're familiar with the TTRS curriculum, you know that in each level, we introduce particular phonics and spelling patterns. You can see if you're unsure of what is being taught in a level, just open your admin account, go over to the TTRS course, and you'll see a paragraph at the top that explains what's being taught in that level. And each module will have an actual description next to it that shows you what phonemic patterns are being introduced or what spelling rules are being introduced. So when we created these level tests, we didn't just choose words at random. We chose words that were representative, that came from the actual level and were representative of what was being introduced in the level. We chose 12 words per test, and they are the same words that they see in the preview and the review, just in a different order. And we made sure to exclude homophones. There are no capital letters in there. We tried to make it as clear as possible. We wanted to be sure the students knew which word they were typing. So you'll also find the interface. This is what the interface looks like from inside of a words preview or review module. You can see there's an image hint button and a context hint button. So for every word that's being tested, there's an image they can generate if they're not sure of the meaning, and a context hint, which was recorded by a human. It's a sentence that helps give them the word's meaning. So they hear the word again and they understand which word it is, so they're crystal clear on it. They can also replay the word. They can slow it down and hear the audio again, and they can hide this timer by toggling on if you just click on the numbers here, it'll turn it to a little icon of a clock. So they're not actually seeing a time ticking. This is good because you don't really care how long it takes them here. Timing isn't important. We just want them to go through and do their best with spelling. Right. So with the preview and the review modules, from your admin screen, you can go in and see how students did. Students don't see their preview score. They only see their review score, but you can actually see their progress by clicking on the student in the Students tab, and then you see their My Stats, and now you'll see an Assessments button. So the assessments, so if you have this turned on and your student has taken a preview at the start of the level, then they went through and took all of the typing modules, and then they took a review, you'll be able to see, okay, they scored 58% on the preview. By the end, they scored 100% on the words review. You can also use this little details button over here to see which words they got correct or incorrect. So you can see the preview words and the review words here. You can have a quick look, see what kind of errors they made, and then what they still need support with and what they still need help with when it comes to the review. So these tests are a little different from the old spelling test system we had in TTRS. That's because we've deliberately chosen these words as we think that they're measuring spelling levels in general. One way of writing a test is to just say, I think these words measure spelling, and putting them in a list. And we can say, we presented these words in the level, you didn't know them before, you know them at the end. But all we can really prove there is that they learned what we taught them. We can't actually tell you what their spelling level is. But what we're doing with these tests is we're following the same approach as they use in standardized testing. So we're collecting data, and we've been doing that since we introduced them, on students who take these tests. And we're looking at the test takers who do the best. So students who are strong in spelling. And we're checking to see if the students who are strong in spelling are all getting a particular word wrong. If that's the case, that people who are learners who are scoring really high on the test in general are all getting one word wrong, we know that word is not really measuring spelling very well. And it might be for whatever reason. There's no way to tell. Sometimes these things are really random. It could look to us like the perfect word to measure a student's knowledge of a particular pattern. But for some reason, the data contradicts it. And we are essentially bombing our own troops if we keep that on a spelling test, because everyone's getting it wrong who's doing well at spelling. So we don't actually know. So we're not actually measuring spelling well with that word. So what TTRS is doing is we are validating these tests as we amass more test takers on each test. We're actually adapting them and changing them. So they are giving you a really good idea of what your student's spelling level is, as well as telling you if they've learned what we've taught them in a particular level. So I'm going to just move on from spelling tests for a second, and bear with me because I need to use the live version of the program, which may be a little slow right now, given I have a webinar going. Actually, I can just back up here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about statistics. Let's see. So we made a few updates to this student statistics screen in December. What you may notice is that the activity tab looks a little different. You can now see main course, subjects, and free writing performance here. And we have a custom date selector. So you can go through and choose what you want to be reflected in these boxes here by selecting maybe you might want to look at from the start of the term or just the past few weeks. You can use these tabs as well to look at the previous week this month. The week starts on Monday. So if you select this week and you see nothing here, it may be that your student just hasn't signed in yet. Something along those lines. We also have a revamped achievements tab. You will see the familiar sort of summary statistics for how your student is doing, but you can now also look at their trophy room performance. I have some screenshots. I'm just going to see if I can open my, well, we'll just look at it live. So you can see we have an overall achievements tab here for the student, and you can print these, and you can also view their trophy room. This is what the student will see. This tells you about the stars they're collecting as they complete modules. You can see the number of 100s they're getting, and look down at any trophies they've earned. We do have a more robust gamification system coming later this year, which will have even more badges and awards they can learn, but we'll tell you about that in a few months. Under the main course tab, when you click main course, you'll see sort of an overview. You'll see overview statistics for the level, but you can then always click on that actual level to drill down further. Just make sure if people are asking. So what do the stars mean? Someone just asked me. The stars are, depending on how well they did when they completed a module, what their score was, they'll earn 1, 2, or 3 stars, and they collect stars as they go. So it's just a motivating thing. If you turn the level trophies off in the settings, it will actually turn the stars off too. Right, so here we are, and we're looking at an individual level. And we can see their performance on each module, and you can go down to this tab at the bottom and view, you can view when they took the module, how much time they took, what their words per minute score was, if they had hand guides that were shown on the screen or not. If they take it multiple times, you can see that they've tried however many times they've tried. And you can always click on the details tab here to see the actual words that they spelled. Actually, I'm sorry, we're not in the test. You can just see their particular scores for each time they took it. So it allows you to look at the tries. So if they had 5 tries, you can go and look at the first try, the second try, the third try, etc. Sorry, this is being a bit slow to load. So somebody just asked about Carol just asked about the speed of the program. Yes, actually, the program should get much faster in the next week or two because we are introducing a new version that will help there. Let me see. I'm reloading my screen. Let's see. I'm conscious we are running low on time. So, and there's one more thing I wanted to talk to you about. Let me see if I can share my screen here. I'm just going to share a different screen. Let me try this. Share a screen. Let's see if we can look at my presentation here. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through quickly these slides. Let me just see if you can, yes, I guess you can kind of see here. So you can see over in the bottom right, this is what happens when you click on details. You can see underneath there's a select date. So you're able to select each try, each time they took that module and look at different words, their different accuracy and typing speed scores for each try. We also have, we talked about the assessments tab. We also have a subjects tab where you can drill down and look at individual subjects and then into their levels and modules and get the same kind of information. And we have a free writing tab that allows you to look at all of the free writing sessions that they've had. You can view the piece itself. You can leave feedback on it. You can look at stats to see how fast they were typing, how many words they used, the words they spelled correct, the words they spelled incorrectly. And you can, again, explore this in your own time, but that's if you have free writing turned on for your students, you'll see that over here. And then we also have a statistics tab. What's different here is when you're under students, you're looking at just that student's stats. For the statistics tab, you can look at all of your students. You can click on column headers to sort things from high to low or by student name. And we're in the process of revamping this page. We're going to turn it into a reports page. So if you have particular reports that you like to generate for all of your students or that would be helpful for you, please do send us an email, send me an email and let me know. And as we're working on the designs here and improving this page, we can try to incorporate all of your ideas. So we make sure that this, because you have a lot of different, you can toggle which columns you can see here, which fields you can sort by. So there'll be a lot of options, and then you can print whatever report you have shown on screen. So we've got about 5 minutes left. Let's just talk briefly about typing screen themes. So when we were going through the general tab, there was an enable typing screen themes toggle. Typing screens, we introduced these in August. What they are fun backgrounds that a student can have. It's just another motivating feature, something that they unlock as they're going through the program. So they'll be taking a module, they'll complete a module, and they'll get their end of module screen, and then something pops up that says, you've unlocked the Northern Lights theme. And it shows them the theme. They can go into their settings and find it in the drop-down under themes and enable it. It's kind of an exciting, fun thing for them. And you can see it here. This is a space one. How do they get these? They're hidden behind sets of modules. So it's not always a particular module that unlocks one. Sometimes it'll be, and maybe it's in module 1 to 4 and level 3. A typing screen will be unlocked in one of those for the student. It's also random which one they get. If you want to go ahead and unlock these for your student, or if you want them to unlock them, we have a help guide, and the help guide tells you where they're hidden. So you'll get a link to that help guide in the email that will come out at the end of the webinar, and you'll be able to just open those particular modules, and you can then tell your student, go in and type these, and they will get a typing screen theme unlocked if they go through them. What this looks like in practice, let me just switch back to my student, and I'll log in as the student quickly. And let me put my, let me change to, a second, share my screen. Okay, let me just make sure I have typing screen themes are on. Okay, so I will go back in and log in as the student, and we can just see. It's going to take a second. We'll be able to see how I would turn it on. So one of the things that we realized is when you put a typing screen theme on, it also changes the background color and the text and font colors, and that can be distracting for some learners because they need a particular background for high readability, but we wanted them to still be able to use the typing screen themes. So we have this little box here that it says apply my color settings. So if you tick that box, you can choose a typing screen theme. So again, any themes that they've unlocked will show up in this drop-down level. So Space Theme, Northern Lights, Enchanted Forest, etc. will show up here. You can select the theme, but then you can also tick the apply my color settings, and that will make sure that even though the typing screen is enabled, what they see in this box in the middle stays the same. So they still have their optimal readability settings in place for font and colors. So it allows them to use it without it affecting readability for them. Right, okay, I rushed through the end there. So does anyone have any quick questions before this wraps up? And again, we will send out a recording of the webinar, and with that email, there'll also be a link to all of the help guides on all of this. And again, I said the last thing I had on my list was what's coming up. So we have a lot of exciting things that are coming up this year. In the very near future, we'll be releasing this new Lexend font that your students can choose. It's not, so we have Open Dyslexic now, so it is a dyslexia-friendly font, and it actually works for students who don't have dyslexia as well. It's been sort of given thumbs up across the board for readability. So have a look for that. And you can see we do announce new features on our Get Beamer account. So that should be a pop-up for you. So when it becomes live, you should see that, and you can then either have your students go in and select it, or you can select it for them. We also are looking at improving the gamification system and possibly introducing some games as well. So there's a lot coming in the next, and a new reports page. There's a lot coming in the next 6 months, so stay tuned. Apologies again about the technical errors. I did have all of these slides. It just wouldn't let me load them into the program, and doing my best here. I am 39 weeks pregnant, so done my best. But again, if you have more questions, please go ahead and send me an email. I'll try to get them answered in the next few days. If you miss this webinar and you're watching the recording and you're watching it next week, I will get back to you. It'll just probably be early to mid-February by the time you hear from me. If you have very pressing questions, one of my colleagues can pick it up and try and answer that for you. Great. Right. So I will hope everyone has a great day, and I will end this here. Thanks again, everyone. Bye.